Today, modern neuroscience relies on a highly documented foundational baseline to explain exactly why we sleep: memory consolidation. Through decades of research, the traditional framework has treated sleep, both REM and non-REM cycles, primarily as a mechanical process for stabilizing episodic memories. This schematic maps systems consolidation. Temporary information is held in the hippocampus, then replayed and transferred outward to the neocortex for long-term storage. Biologists call this structural consolidation. The neural representation of an event becomes physically stable. The core assumption of this paradigm is straightforward. Once the neural trace is structurally stabilized, the memory-making process is complete. But if memory consolidation is strictly about structural stabilization, we run into a boundary question. Why does the brain continue to generate active, complex dreams about memories that are already structurally stable? Dream journals consistently reveal phenomena the classical model leaves unresolved. People frequently revisit the exact same unresolved themes night after night, or experience narratives that abruptly terminate before reaching a conclusion. Furthermore, concrete episodic events often morph over time. An experience from Tuesday might reappear weeks later in a highly abstract, symbolic form, entirely detached from the original sensory details. The brain kinematics model, alongside continuity theory, provides a framework to address these specific anomalies. This framework identifies the primary function of dreaming as organizational translation. Within this model, memory consolidation reaches completion only when the information achieves deep organizational integration within the self. To understand how this translation works, we have to look at how the brain kinematics model defines cognition. It operates as a rigidly structured hierarchical system. The cognitive hierarchy scales from motor imagery and perception, through emotion and social interaction, to complex decision-making and abstract meaning. A weak event, like recognizing a face, briefly rattles lower levels, but a major event jolts the entire system, misaligning the cognitive hierarchy. This disruption injects what the theory calls regulatory strain across multiple cognitive levels simultaneously. The true weight of a waking experience is determined by the extent of this organizational propagation. A strong event forces the brain to recalibrate everything from baseline emotion to abstract life meaning. Dreaming functions as the mechanical solution to this misalignment. It acts as an organizational translator for the injected strain. A July 29th dream demonstrates ascending translation. A spatial concept, a room, migrates upward, abstracting into an engineering problem, a decision, and finally artificial intelligence. Conversely, descending translation pushes a high-level identity concern down into a familial context, grounding it as a physical airport. The sleeping brain continuously translates information vertically between abstraction and concrete imagery, and horizontally across parallel social and emotional networks. By dynamically distributing this strain, the brain ensures that no single cognitive level bears the full weight of a major waking disruption. This distribution of strain explains one of the most common frustrations in dreaming: waking up right before your flight departs, or leaving a conversation before resolving the argument. Under the brain kinematics model, an abrupt ending represents partial organizational integration rather than a failure of systems consolidation. This chart represents total regulatory strain from a waking event. Sleep reduces the strain significantly, leaving residual strain. Splitting the data reveals why. Lower-level sensory and emotional traces stabilize quickly, but higher-level implications for identity and meaning require more time, leaving those meters high. This residual strain is not an error. It serves as stored organizational potential, becoming the necessary initial condition for how you will process information the very next day. We can observe this mapping of external structures in a July 2026 case study. The subject dreamt they only learned about a pre-coordinated family visit by overhearing a phone call. The emotional core of the dream wasn't fear or anxiety about the visit itself. It was the cognitive friction of being excluded from an established information network. This node and edge graph models external social organization. Nodes for family and communication are connected, while the self node sits isolated. When the dream reveals missing information, a simulation of late synchronization runs. The cognitive system integrates into the external network, resolving the homeostatic imbalance. This proves the brain mechanically models the topology of the social dynamic itself. Communication and network access are treated as primary organizational constraints. This dual timeline diagram highlights the contrast. Track A shows structural consolidation, where the neural trace becomes physically stable in hours or days. Track B tracks organizational integration, an extended multi-night process. The episodic memory is revisited repeatedly, connecting to wider networks of meaning over weeks. This leads to the organizational integration principle. A memory only achieves mature long-term status when its structural trace is fully stable, and its significance is entirely embedded across your emotional, autobiographical, and behavioral continuums. Memory consolidation represents a recursive evolution of the mind. The Kinematics framework offers testable predictions for future research. If this theory holds, as memories mature, the neurophysiological markers of sleep should increasingly coincide with broader cortical network integration. Memories are not merely stored. The brain progressively weaves them into the evolving architecture of the self, spanning the past, present, and future. Dreaming is less about rigidly preserving the past and entirely about continuously calibrating the mind for the anticipated demands of the future.